The sleek diplomatic vessel Horizon drifted silently through the darkness of space. Its polished hull reflected distant stars as it approached the designated meeting point. This was humanity's most important mission yet, first contact with an advanced alien civilization. Captain Park stood tall on the bridge, his weathered face calm despite the historic weight of the moment. His dark eyes narrowed slightly as he studied the approaching alien vessel through the main view screen. The carrion ship moved with perfect precision, its strange geometric design unlike anything humans had built. "They're exactly on time," noted Science Officer Kim beside him, checking her instruments. Her voice carried a mixture of professional detachment and barely contained excitement. Not a second early or late. Their navigation must be incredibly precise. Captain Park nodded. Punctuality seems to be something we have in common. The bridge crew worked in focused silence. This moment would be remembered in history books for centuries to come. Humanity had dreamed of this day since people first looked up at the stars. When the communication screen activated, the humans got their first close look at the carrions. Tall, with smooth gray-blue skin and large, multifaceted eyes, High Emissary Vex spoke in a voice that the translation software rendered as deep and melodious. "Greetings, children of Earth. The Carrion Imperium welcomes you to the galactic community." The initial talks went better than anyone had hoped. The Carrions seemed genuinely interested in human culture, art, and science. They offered to share certain technologies and approve human settlement on several worlds near their borders that they claimed were uninhabited. Within months, the first joint human-carrion research facility opened on Mars. Trade agreements were signed. Human musicians performed for carrion audiences, while carrion art was displayed in museums across Earth. 12 new colony worlds began receiving human settlers, with Harmony Colony becoming the largest and most prosperous. Administrator Lee oversaw Harmony's development personally. She took pride in the colony's growing success, its farms producing their first harvests, schools opening for the children, and construction beginning on a new spaceport that would increase trade with both Earth and carrion worlds. "We're building something special here," she told the Colony Council during their 3rd anniversary celebration. "A new chapter in human history." But far from human eyes, in the hidden research labs beneath the carrion homeworld, the aliens viewed humans very differently. Lead researcher Nex moved between examination tables where unconscious human subjects lay, traders and diplomats who had disappeared during visits to carrion space. "Their biology shows remarkable adaptability," Nex explained to the gathered military officials. "They survive in environments that would kill most species. Their immune systems fight off infections with surprising efficiency. Their reproductive rate is concerning." An older carrion with military insignia stepped forward. "And your conclusion?" "They are a potential threat," Nex said simply. "Given sufficient time and access to advanced technology, they could eventually challenge carrion dominance in this sector. Their unpredictable nature makes them dangerous. The test colonies have provided valuable data, but we have learned all we need." The military leader nodded. "Then proceed with the next phase." 3 years and 2 months after first contact, the attack came without warning. Administrator Lee was reviewing construction plans in her office when emergency alarms blared throughout Harmony Colony. She rushed to the window and felt her blood turn cold. The sky, normally blue and bright, had darkened with the shadows of massive carrion warships. "This can't be right," she whispered, even as her training kicked in. She slammed her hand on the emergency broadcast system. "All citizens, this is not a drill. Proceed immediately to the emergency shelters. I repeat, this is not." The first bombardment shook the building. Windows shattered. Systems failed. Lee grabbed the backup communication unit and sent a desperate message toward Earth. "Carrion ships attacking Harmony. They're firing on civilian targets. We need immediate." A second blast knocked her to the floor. Through falling debris, she managed to reach the unit again. "They're killing everyone. This isn't a misunderstanding. It's extermination." Similar scenes play out across all 12 human colonies simultaneously. Carrion precision ensured communication blackouts within minutes of the first strikes. Civilian evacuation ships were targeted first, then hospitals and power plants. On Earth, the emergency transmission from Harmony arrived during a United Nations session. The room fell silent as Administrator Lee's desperate voice played over the speakers, cutting off mid-sentence. Seconds later, similar fragmented messages arrived from other colonies. Captain Park, now stationed at Earth Defense Command, watched satellite imagery of the colonies going dark one by one. He thought of the Carrion representatives he had welcomed aboard his ship, the cultural exchanges, the promises of friendship. They planned this from the beginning, he said quietly. Everything was a lie. Science Officer Kim, now head of xenobiology research, looked up from the data streaming across her screen. The colony locations, they weren't random unclaimed worlds. They're strategically positioned. If the Carrions hold those points, they have a direct path to Earth, finished Park. The President's voice came through their communication systems. I've called an emergency meeting of the United Earth Council. We need options, people. As night fell across the planet, billions of humans went about their lives unaware that everything had changed. In government facilities, military bases, and research centers, lights burned through the night as humanity faced the shocking truth. Their first contact with alien life had been a careful deception. Now they faced an enemy who had studied them for years while pretending to be friends. The Carrions had pushed too far. They believed humans would be easy prey. They were wrong. The Grand Chamber of the United Earth Council fell silent as Admiral Blake stepped away from the podium. The evidence she had presented hung in the air, both literally in the form of holographic displays and figuratively in the stunned expressions of the council members. 200 of Earth's most powerful leaders sat frozen in their seats. The holograms rotated slowly above the center of the room, showing Carrion scientists in sterile white labs. Their alien hands moved with clinical detachment as they performed experiments on unconscious human subjects. The footage had been recovered from a damaged Carrion research vessel that had been abandoned during their retreat from Harmony Colony. An older council member in the front row vomited into a waste bin beside his chair. No one commented or looked away from the images. The footage speaks for itself, Admiral Blake said. Her voice was steady despite having watched these recordings dozens of times during the verification process. These are not military prisoners. These are civilians from our colonies. Defense Minister Choi stood up slowly. She was a small woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen 3 wars before this one. The biological data they're collecting confirms what our intelligence suspected. They're testing our biological vulnerabilities, looking for the most efficient ways to kill us. She swept her hand across the chamber. This was never about territory. They've been planning this from the beginning. The council room erupted in angry voices. Some demanded immediate military strikes against known Carrion worlds. Others called for evacuation plans to save as many humans as possible. A few simply sat in shocked silence. President Wu raised his hands for quiet, one at a time. We need clear heads now more than ever. Diplomat Song, who had led many of the initial contact missions with the Carrions, raised his hand. His face looked aged beyond his years, the weight of misplaced trust visible in the new lines around his eyes. We should attempt one final negotiation, he said. His voice was hollow, but determined. Not because I believe they will accept peace, but because we must be certain. And because the galaxy must know we tried every option before what comes next. President Wu nodded. I agree. We will send one final communication. Not pleading, not begging. A clear statement that they can cease hostilities and withdraw, or face the full response of humanity. The message was crafted carefully and sent through all available channels to the Carrion leadership. In the tense hour that followed, the Council reviewed evacuation procedures for Earth's major cities and a preliminary assessment of military readiness. Admiral Blake stood by the main communication display, waiting. She had not expected a reply. When it came, The Carrion Supreme Commander appeared on screen, his multifaceted eyes showing no emotion their human observers could recognize. Your species has two choices. The translation software rendered his clicks and whistles. Complete surrender and controlled reduction of your population, or extinction. You have 48 Earth hours to decide. The transmission cut before anyone could respond. The chamber remained silent for several long moments. Then Admiral Bike stood slowly, her decorated uniform reflecting the chamber lights as she walked to the center of the room. Medals from past Earth conflicts caught the light, reminders of human fighting human, now meaningless in the face of this new threat. Throughout our history, she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. Humanity has faced those who believed our extinction was their right. Her eyes met those of council members one by one. They all learned the same lesson. She paused, the silence adding weight to her next words. We do not break. We adapt. We overcome. Defense Minister Choi nodded slowly. The Carrions studied us for 3 years, but they still don't understand us. They see our divisions and think we're weak. They don't understand that humans are never more dangerous than when fighting for survival. President Wu called for the vote. The choice before us is clear. Do we fight with everything we have, or do we surrender and place the fate of humanity in Carrion hands? One by one, the council members registered their votes. The display at the front of the chamber tallied the results in real time. No one was surprised by the outcome. Unanimous. War. President Wu's expression was grim, but resolved as he officially declared a state of global emergency. As of this moment, all Earth nations are unified against this threat. All previous conflicts between human governments are suspended. The meeting shifted to implementation. Defense plans that had existed only as theoretical exercises were now activated. Emergency broadcasts would begin within the hour. Civilian evacuation to hardened shelters would commence by morning. Admiral Bike left the chamber with her military staff, their footsteps echoing down the marble hallway. How badly are we outmatched? Asked her aide quietly. Significantly, she admitted. Their technology is at least a century ahead of ours, but they've never fought humans before. That night, as darkness fell across Earth's cities, dormant factory floors hummed to life. Production facilities that had been built during previous conflicts and maintained just in case began working at full capacity. On Mars, the military shipyards that most civilians didn't know existed initiated their emergency protocols. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a classified facility carved into the seabed, General Han stood before a gathered team of Earth's most brilliant scientists and engineers. The room was filled with prototypes and experimental technology deemed too unstable or dangerous for conventional use. Project Thunderbolt is now authorized, he announced, entering his command codes into the central system. Full resources, no restrictions. We need deployable solutions, not perfect ones. You've all speculated about what would happen if humanity faced an extinction-level threat. He looked around the room. Now we know. As the scientists dispersed to their stations, General Han remained at the viewing window, watching as the lights came on in the massive construction bay below. The experimental vessel there, half-built and incorporating technology no human had fully mastered, represented humanity's best hope. They should have killed us all at once, he murmured to himself. Now they'll learn what cornered animals can do. Above on the Earth's surface, millions of citizens watched emergency broadcasts telling them that humanity was at war with an alien species. Few panicked. Instead, recruitment centers found lines forming before dawn. Retired military personnel reported for duty without being called. Factories converted to war production faster than emergency plans had anticipated. The Carrions had studied humans, but they had missed something essential. Humans had been fighting each other for their entire history. Now, for the first time, they had a common enemy. The Carrions moved their warships into position around the human colony of New Eden with absolute confidence. Their sleek vessels, with technology centuries beyond Earth's capabilities, formed a perfect attack formation. Sensor readings showed the approaching human defenders, a ragtag collection of retrofitted military ships and converted civilian vessels. The Carrion commander almost felt pity for them. "Primitive weapon systems detected," reported a Carrion officer. "Their ships appear to be using outdated fusion drives. Victory probability, 99.8%. But aboard the human flagship Defiant, Commander Bai had no intention of fighting the battle the Carrions expected. She stood calmly on the bridge, her experienced eyes studying the tactical display showing the overwhelming enemy force. "They think we'll attack in a standard formation," she said to her officers. "They expect us to fight like we fight each other, but we've never had to fight an enemy with superior technology before." She tapped the display, highlighting the asteroid field that bordered the colony. "Split formations, random jump patterns," she ordered, her voice clear and confident. "Confuse their targeting systems." The human fleet suddenly scattered in what looked like complete disarray to Carrion sensors. Ships accelerated in seemingly random directions. Some cut engines entirely, drifting silently. Others performed erratic maneuvers that made no tactical sense according to standard military doctrine. Aboard the Carrion command ship, confusion spread. "What are they doing?" the commander demanded. "Is this some kind of surrender?" "Unknown, sir," replied his tactical officer. "Their movements don't match any known human military patterns." The commander sneered. "It doesn't matter. Begin the attack sequence." The Carrion ships fired their advanced energy weapons, but hit mostly empty space. The human vessels were no longer where prediction algorithms said they should be. When Carrion ships adjusted their targeting, they found the humans had already moved again. Meanwhile, far from the main battle, Major Park and his Special Forces team approached Research Station 7, a Carrion facility where captured humans were being held. Their small stealth craft attached to the station's outer hull without triggering alarms. "Cutting complete," whispered his engineering specialist. "We have access to the ventilation system." Major Park checked his weapon one last time before entering the narrow tunnel. He led 5 soldiers, each carrying both weapons and medical supplies. They had trained for this mission, using simulations based on the limited data available about Carrion architecture. "Remember," he whispered as they approached the first junction, "get our people out first, then set the charges. We move fast and quiet." They encountered the first Carrion guard at the security checkpoint. The alien never had a chance to sound an alarm before Park's silenced weapon dropped it to the floor. The team moved deeper into the facility, following the life signs their scanners detected. What they found in the detention area would haunt them forever. Hundreds of humans in various states of medical experimentation, some barely recognizable as human anymore. "Get them all out," Park ordered, his voice tight with controlled rage. "Everyone who can walk helps someone who can't." Back at the New Eden colony, the battle had taken an unexpected turn. Captain Lee's battle group had positioned itself within the asteroid field, using the natural cover to compensate for their technological disadvantage. "They're pursuing us into the field," reported her tactical officer. "Just as you predicted." Captain Lee nodded. Her strategy relied on the Carrions' overconfidence, their belief that superior technology meant they could engage in any environment. "Wait for them to reach the marker points," she ordered. "Let them think they're cornering us." The Carrion ships pushed deeper into the asteroid field, their advanced sensors tracking the human vessels hiding among the massive rocks. They didn't detect the hundreds of simple nuclear mines the humans had planted throughout the field weeks earlier. Primitive technology that didn't register on their advanced scanning systems looking for energy signatures. "Spring the trap," Captain Lee ordered when the Carrion fleet reached the perfect position. The mines detonated simultaneously, sending thousands of asteroid fragments hurtling in all directions. The Carrion shields, designed to stop energy weapons, struggled against the kinetic impact of massive rocks. As their ships dealt with this unexpected threat, the hidden human vessels emerged from cover and fired from multiple angles. It wasn't a fair fight. It wasn't meant to be. Human vessels targeted the same weak points on each carrion ship, concentrating fire with surprising coordination. 3 carrion cruisers exploded in quick succession. Hours later, aboard a captured carrion vessel, Military Director Rix could not comprehend what had happened. He reviewed the battle data for the 5th time, searching for an explanation. How did they adapt so quickly to our targeting systems? He demanded of his surviving officers. Their technology is inferior in every way. Their tactics made no sense. Sir, ventured one junior officer, they didn't fight according to any known doctrine. Our prediction algorithms had nothing to reference. Rix slammed his fist on the console. They're primitives. They shouldn't be able to defeat us, but defeat them they had. The New Eden system remained under human control. The research station had been destroyed after all prisoners were evacuated, and most importantly, humanity had captured its first intact carrion warship. On Earth, in the underground Pacific facility, Engineer Hay presented the results of the latest trials to General Han. The prototype vessel, incorporating technology reverse-engineered from carrion fragments, had performed beyond expectations. The adaptive shield technology works, reported Engineer Ha, barely containing her excitement. It actually learns from enemy weapons and adjusts accordingly. Each hit makes it stronger against that specific energy frequency. General Han studied the test results. How soon can we deploy this to the fleet? The first Thunderbolt-class destroyer will be ready within 2 weeks. 5 more a month after that. The news of the victory at New Eden spread across human territories, boosting morale and recruitment. Major Park's team was honored in a private ceremony, the details of their mission too classified for public knowledge. Commander Bai was promoted and given command of a larger fleet. Her unorthodox tactics were shared with other commanders, who adapted them to their own situations. Humanity was learning, evolving its warfare faster than the Carrions could adjust. At Carrion High Command, the reports of setbacks were met with dismissal. Minor defeats. They cannot sustain resistance against our superior technology, stated the Supreme Commander. These are anomalies, not trends. But as more reports arrived of human victories, doubt began to spread through the Carrion military. The humans were fighting in ways that made no sense according to established military doctrine. They used obsolete technology in creative ways. They set traps. They sacrificed positions to gain advantages. A junior analyst suggested studying human history to understand their approach to warfare. His suggestion was noted but ignored. That was their mistake. Because humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years, they had extensive experience in overcoming superior forces through creativity, sacrifice, and sheer determination. What the Carrions saw as primitive desperation, humans recognize as their greatest strength, the ability to adapt. And as the first Thunderbolt-class destroyers joined the human fleet, bringing with them technology that could actually challenge Carrion supremacy, the true counterattack was just beginning. They were wrong about humanity. Catastrophically wrong. Red alert sirens wailed throughout the Sol system. Emergency broadcasts interrupted all communications. The Carrion Armada had smashed through the outer defense network, destroyed the Jupiter outposts, and now approached Mars with overwhelming force. On Earth, civilians huddled in underground shelters, watching news feeds with terrified fascination. The massive Carrion fleet filled the screens, hundreds of warships moving with mechanical precision toward humanity's home. "This is it," whispered a mother to her child in a crowded London shelter. "They've come for Earth." In the military command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Yoon stood surrounded by holographic displays, showing the desperate situation. Mars defense stations fired continuously at the approaching enemy, but Carrion shields absorbed the impacts with minimal damage. "How long can Mars hold?" asked President Wu, his face haggard from weeks of crisis. "Hours at most," replied General Yoon honestly. "Their shipyards are still evacuating civilian personnel." The Mars Colonial Guard fought bravely, their smaller vessels darting between the massive Carrion warships, scoring occasional hits before being vaporized. Each human ship lost meant dozens of families who would never see their loved ones again. But they bought precious time with their lives. General Yoon coordinated Earth's last defensive line, a mixture of military vessels and armed civilian ships positioned between Mars and Earth. Her eyes showed no fear, only calculated determination. "Hold as long as possible," she ordered the captains. "Reinforcements are coming." Few believed her. The Thunderbolt project remained classified, known only to top military personnel. To most defenders, this looked like humanity's last stand. On Mars, the situation grew desperate. Governor Shin ordered the final evacuation ships to launch, carrying the last civilians toward Earth. "What about you, sir?" asked his aide. Governor Shin watched the carrion ships growing larger in the observation window. "My place is here. Someone needs to trigger the contingency plan if necessary." The battle around Mars intensified as Earth's defense fleet engaged the carrions. Human vessels fought with desperate courage, but technology gaps became increasingly apparent. Carrion energy weapons tore through human shields. Their targeting systems predicted and countered standard evasive maneuvers. In the command center, President Wu watched the battle with growing despair. "We need those reinforcements now," he urged General Yoon, "or there won't be anything left to reinforce." General Yoon checked her secure communication channel again. Nothing. Then, just as the human fleet suffered critical losses, sensors detected new energy signatures emerging from hyperspace behind the carrion formation. 12 unmarked vessels appeared, sleek, dark shapes unlike any human or carrion design. "The Thunderbolt fleet," breathed General Yoon with visible relief. Aboard the lead vessel, Captain Kang sat in a specially designed command chair, neural connection cables attached to her temples and spine. Around her, 11 other pilots interfaced similarly with their ships. "Neural interfaces online," she reported as her consciousness expanded. She could feel the ship as if it were her own body, its sensors becoming her eyes, its weapons her hands. Human reflexes and intuition now guided machines faster than any computer could calculate responses. The 12 Thunderbolt ships moved with impossible agility, their adaptive shields shimmering as they absorbed and learned from carrion weapons fire. Each hit made them stronger, each attack taught them more about their enemy. The carrion commander redirected a portion of his fleet to deal with this unexpected threat, confident in their superior numbers. On Mars, Governor Shin received the coded message he had been waiting for. With a heavy heart, he entered his authorization into the computer system. "May our sacrifice be worthy," he whispered. Without warning, the massive Mars shipyards erupted in nuclear fire. A deliberate self-destruct sequence triggered at precisely the calculated moment. The explosion wasn't just destructive, it was strategic. The shipyards contained special materials that amplified the blast in ways carrion shields couldn't compensate for. Half the carrion fleet, caught in the blast radius while maneuvering to engage the Thunderbolt ships, suffered catastrophic damage. Vessels tumbled out of formation, shields failing, hulls breaching. Captain Kang felt rather than saw the opportunity. Through the neural interface, she directed the Thunderbolt fleet to attack the disorganized enemy with perfect coordination. Human reflexes, freed from technological limitations by the neural interface, outpaced carrion automated systems. "Press the advantage," ordered General Yoon to the remaining conventional forces. "Focus fire on damaged vessels." The battle shifted dramatically. What had appeared to be humanity's final defeat transformed into an unexpected opportunity. The carrion fleet, for the first time, fell into disarray. Thousands of lives were lost on both sides. Mars would remain uninhabitable for decades. But as the remaining carrion vessels retreated from the Sol system, humanity had achieved what seemed impossible. They had defended Earth. On the carrion homeworld, Supreme Commander Dax reviewed the battle footage with growing concern. His multifaceted eyes reflected the holographic images of the Mars explosion and the strange new human vessels. "We miscalculated," he admitted to the gathered military leadership. "These humans, they're willing to sacrifice everything." They destroyed their own colony to defeat us. An intelligence officer stepped forward. The new ships incorporate technology we've never seen before. Somehow they've developed adaptive systems that learn from our weapons. Impossible, hissed another commander. Their technology was centuries behind ours. Was, emphasized Dax. We've given them motivation and opportunity. They're adapting faster than any species we've encountered. In the political chambers of the Imperium, the news of the defeat created shockwaves. The Supreme Consul demanded explanations. You assured us humans would fall quickly, he reminded Dax. Instead, they've destroyed a significant portion of our fleet. Political fractures appeared throughout the Imperium as military leaders questioned the wisdom of provoking humanity. Resources dedicated to the war effort strained the economy. Public support waned as casualty reports increased. Meanwhile, emboldened by their victory, humanity pushed deeper into carrion space. The Thunderbolt fleet, now expanded to 30 vessels, led the offensive. They targeted not military installations, but prison planets and labor colonies. On Nexus 9, a world where the Carrions had enslaved the peaceful Trellan species, Captain Kang's Thunderbolt ships neutralized the orbital defenses while ground forces liberated the labor camps. The grateful Trellans revealed that many other species suffered under Carrion rule. We are not alone in this fight, Captain Kang reported to Earth Command. The Carrions have made many enemies. They've conquered 12 sentient species that we know of so far. General Yoon saw the strategic opportunity immediately. Contact each species. Offer them freedom in exchange for alliance. Within months, human diplomats coordinated with representatives from various subjugated worlds. Species that had suffered under Carrion rule for generations saw humans as liberators. They shared intelligence, resources, and their own unique technologies. The war that the Carrions had started as a simple extermination campaign had transformed into a multi-species resistance movement with humanity at its center. The empire that had stood unchallenged for centuries now faced enemies on multiple fronts. In a private meeting with his most trusted advisors, Supreme Commander Dax made a rare admission. We should have studied their history more carefully, he said quietly. Humans don't fight like other species. They don't surrender when defeat seems certain. They improvise. They sacrifice. And most dangerously, they inspire others to follow them. An older advisor nodded gravely. Perhaps it's time to consider terms for ending this conflict. Dax stared at the updated star map showing human advances into Carrion territory. I fear it may already be too late for that. After 2 years of fighting, the combined human and allied species fleet appeared in the skies above the Carrion homeworld. The massive armada darkened the blue-green atmosphere as it moved into position. Thousands of ships, from Earth's advanced Thunderbolt vessels to the organic-looking craft of the liberated Trellans, formed a ring around the planet. On the surface, Carrion civilians watched in terror. They had seen the broadcasts of what had happened to human colonies at the start of the war. Many expected the same fate would now befall them, orbital bombardment that would turn cities to ash. Supreme Commander Dax stood in the Planetary Defense Center, surrounded by his remaining loyal officers. Their faces showed a mixture of defiance and fear. We still have ground-based weapons, said his second-in-command. We can hurt them even as they destroy us. Dax watched the tactical display as more human ships arrived. His intelligence reports had warned him of humanity's technological advances over the past 2 years, but seeing their fleet in person was still shocking. Open a channel, he ordered. Let us hear what they demand before we make our final stand. The main screen activated, showing Admiral Bake on the bridge of her flagship. Her uniform bore the scars of many battles, her face the calm confidence of a leader who had guided her people from near extinction to victory. This is Admiral Bake of the United Earth Forces, she began. To the leadership and people of the Carrion Imperium, we offer terms for your surrender, not extermination. A murmur ran through the command center. This was not what they had expected. Admiral Bake continued, we demand the immediate release of all enslaved species, reparations for destroyed human colonies, and the trial of those who ordered attacks on civilian targets. She paused. But we do not seek the destruction of your civilization or your people. Dax's mind raced. After all that had happened, after what his people had done to human colonies, this offer seemed impossible. Why should we believe you? He asked. Admiral Beck's expression remained neutral. Because unlike you, we understand that genocide solves nothing. We've seen enough death. The political situation on the Carrion homeworld quickly fractured. Many military and civilian leaders, seeing the overwhelming force arrayed against them, pushed for acceptance of the human terms. But a hardline faction, led by Imperial Guard Commander Lax, seized control of the capital city and vowed to fight to the last Carrion. Better to die with honor than live under alien rule, Lax declared over emergency broadcasts. True Carrions will never surrender. The humans could have simply bombarded the capital from orbit. Instead, they chose a more difficult path. Commander G led the final ground assault, commanding a mixed force of human special forces and warriors from species the Carrions had previously conquered. We go in surgical, G told her troops before the drop. Minimal civilian casualties. Our target is the leadership bunker, not the population. Their dropships faced intense fire as they descended through the atmosphere. 3 were lost before reaching the ground. G's unit landed 10 miles from the capital and began their advance through ruined suburbs. A Trellan scout named Vor moved beside Gi. His species had suffered under Carrion rule for 3 generations. Many of my people wanted all Carrions dead, Vor admitted as they moved cautiously through abandoned buildings. I did too, once. Jay nodded. Revenge is the easy path. Building something better is harder. The fighting in the capital was brutal. The Imperial Guard had prepared defensive positions and fought with the desperation of those who expected no mercy. Block by block, building by building, G's forces pushed toward the central government complex. When they finally breached the bunker, Commander Lax and his remaining officers refused to surrender. The final firefight lasted less than 3 minutes. When the fighting ended, the Provisional Carrion government formally surrendered. The new Galactic Council convened with representatives from Earth and all former Carrion territories and subjugated worlds. For the first time in known history, 20 different species sat as equals to determine the future of their shared region of space. In the aftermath, human aid ships delivered supplies to Carrion refugee camps. Doctors treated wounded civilians regardless of species. Engineers helped rebuild infrastructure destroyed in the fighting. A young Carrion child watched with confusion as a human medical worker treated his injured arm. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. "I thought humans hated Carrions." The medic smiled gently as she wrapped the bandage. "We fought against those who tried to harm us, not against children who had no choice." 5 years passed. The former Carrion worlds integrated into the new Galactic Alliance. Technology sharing accelerated development for all member species. Former enemies learned to work together, though tensions and prejudices remained. Then came the warning. Long-range probes detected something massive approaching from beyond charted space, a fleet larger than anything seen before. Early data suggested a hive mind species that consumed all resources in its path, leaving dead worlds behind. On the observation deck of Earth's newest flagship, the Unity, Admiral Buck stood gazing at the assembled defense fleet. Beside her was former Carrion Commander Min, once her enemy, now one of her most trusted advisors. The viewport showed an incredible sight. 1,000 ships from 24 species, moving in perfect formation during the combat exercises. Carrion crystalline cruisers flew alongside human Thunderbolt destroyers. Trellan organic vessels coordinated with the mechanical precision of Earth's automated defense platforms. "Do you think we're ready?" asked Min, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the lights of the assembled armada. Admiral Bake watched a human technician working alongside a Carrion engineer to adjust the shield harmonics on a nearby vessel. 5 years ago, they would have tried to kill each other. Together, yes, she said with quiet confidence. That's humanity's greatest strength. We learn, we forgive, but we never forget. She turned to face her former enemy, now ally. The Carrions taught us we needed to be stronger. Now we'll teach this new threat the same lesson. Min made the Carrion gesture of respect, something he would never have done to a human during the war. Perhaps that is why the universe brought our species together, not just to fight each other, but to prepare for this. Beyond the viewport, the combined fleet continued its exercises. Their weapons fire illuminated the darkness of space, no longer aimed at each other, but united against a common threat. Humanity had answered war with war, but then peace with peace. Now the real test would begin. The end.